We have correspondents covering the story in 3 countries, Myanmar, Thailand and Malaysia.
Police in the resort town of Langkawi were able to confirm for us that around 1,000 migrants arrived on their shores late into the night. They consisted of the Rohingya from Myanmar as well as Bangladeshis. Now, across the waters in Indonesia, authorities also confirmed that earlier today they rescued around 400 people off the shores of Aceh. Now, if you add up the number of migrants that have arrived in Malaysia and Indonesia just in the past few days, it's more than 2,000 people. And of course, authorities are now having to deal with what they will do. In Malaysia, we have not heard yet from the Home Ministry about what their plans are, but authorities in Langkawi say that they are going to move the 1,000-odd Rohingya and Bangladeshis into a large complex called the shooting range until they can figure out what they will do with them and where they will take them. Now, AFP news agency is reporting that these boats that the migrants arrived on were abandoned by the people smugglers themselves, and they were in fact left to their own devices to make it to shore. The concern that many migrant advocates now have is that they will continue to see an influx of these migrants in the coming days and weeks.
The Myanmar government does not recognize the Rohingya as an ethnic minority, preferring to view them as migrants who crossed over illegally from neighboring Bangladesh, even though many of them have been in this country for generations. Now, they're given no citizenship status, they're subject to restrictions, they aren't allowed to move across the country freely. And 3 years ago, things got worse for the Rohingya when intercommunal violence broke out between the Rohingya and another ethnic community, the Rakhine. More than 140,000 people, mainly the Rohingya, were displaced. They had to move into camps. They're still living in those camps more than 3 years later. Now, the children aren't allowed to go to school. They're entirely dependent on aid, so they see no future for themselves here. Now, unless the government's policies towards them change, many more are likely to get onto boats to try and flee the country. But is there any indication that the government's policies are going to change? Not really. In fact, by the end of this month, the temporary registration cards that many of the Rohingya hold will expire. The government has said they can apply for citizenship, but whether or not they will get that when the government has had a policy of not recognizing them is another matter.
It really started about 9 days ago when the Thai government started an operation clamping down on these illegal migrant groups, these traffickers down in the southern part of this country. The reason it started then, that was because just a few days before that, a mass grave was found at one of these hidden jungle camps containing what they believed to be 26 bodies of Rohingya migrants that were held at one of these hidden camps where their traffickers were trying to extort more money from their families. Some of the times they stayed there for months. So the government is clamping down on that. We were down there in these jungles and saw firsthand what the government was trying to do. What they're doing is they have more military and police in these jungles. They've actually even put barbed wire across what's known to be a trafficking route from Thailand into Malaysia. They put 400 meters of barbed wire there. They're going to stay there overnight for a week to try to prevent any more of this trafficking going on. They've arrested a few local officials. They have over 50 arrest warrants out. They have reassigned police. So all this going on has also kind of backed up what would normally be these channels that have been going over the last several years. That, no doubt, has had an impact on the ships waiting out at sea to bring their human cargo ashore. So what has most likely happened, and what's believed to have happened, is because they knew they couldn't make landfall here in Thailand, those ships probably went down south to Malaysia and Indonesia.